Yash Shen is truly a global Calcuttan. Born in the city, she has lived in the United States and the United Kingdom, so the global nature of her life is certainly not in doubt. But writing wasn't an obvious career choice for her. A statistics graduate, Yash completed her MBA at IIM Calcutta. She worked in the IT hub Bangalore before moving abroad and ended up teaching mathematics at a London high school, where magical stories occupied her dreams. These dreams spilled over onto the page in 2009 when she returned to India and began working seriously on her first novel, The Word Keepers, a fantasy rooted in Hindu mythology. As the story evolved, she realized it would be the first in a trilogy. The Word Keepers was published in January 2013 by Duckbill, a children's label under Westland Books. 10 months later, they published the second book in the series, Sky Serpents. Shen is currently living in Calcutta and working on the third and final installment of the story, Soul Army. While her trilogy was conceptualized in London, she credits her move back to Calcutta for unlocking her creative energy and enabling her to write about Indian mythology in an unrestrained fashion. She begins by discussing her Calcutta-based roots and the evolution of her writing career.
Well, I was born and grew up here till I was 10 and something, and then we left Calcutta, my family, and we moved to Rajasthan and then to Delhi, which is where I completed my graduation. Came back here to do my MBA in Calcutta, and then, like a lot of young people, went off to work in different places, London being the last among them, where I spent about 7.5, 8 years. Now, I was sitting in London and I was teaching, and I was kind of writing in my spare time. But because I was living there, and no one actually said this, but I always felt this pressure within me to write about topics that typically, the way we talked about it, diaspora writers write about. So diaspora angst, which I did not have. Or stories of people who've gone in there and have a life there, and so I was writing these.
I think publishers are very interested in finding the sort of a copy of this writer or of that writer. So they may have been looking for the next, Jhumpa Lahiri or some sort of a story.
Yes, and I had, no angst whatsoever. I was very, very happy. So that was there. My only problem was that I just couldn't get my teeth into a subject I really wanted to write about. And I was then thinking about this middle-aged woman living in an Indian ghetto in London, and that wasn't ringing true either. And I knew what I really wanted to write was actually a fantasy adventure for hopefully young adults. I didn't think of it as young adults, actually. I thought of it as something I'd like to read myself. It just so happens that I like that genre a lot. Yeah. So I started writing it, and I realized that Greek and Roman and Nordic mythology, they weren't just doing it for me. Plus Rick Riordan had started. Mm-hmm. It had to be Indian mythology, and I'd always been an Indian mythology buff. It was a hobby since I was a child. So I started, and then I completely lost heart, thinking, I'm going to write this story and I'm going to present it to somebody, and they're going to ask me to tone it in a particular way for the audience in the UK or in the US, and I just didn't want to do that. I didn't want to go through that whole explaining route. I just wanted to write my story. So when I came back to Calcutta in 2009, after that initial lead time, I started writing. Mm-hmm. I was magically, freed from any such constraint. And the story came out the way I wanted it to come out. I didn't have to worry about readership, audience, market, whether anyone would like it or not. I just wanted to write an adventure.
You were writing an adventure for yourself.
For myself and my nieces and nephews. And and I wanted to have a great time, and I had a great time writing it, and the mythology bit was just woven in. However it was woven in.
In a previous incarnation of this, we were talking to the American writer Bharati Mukherjee, who told us about an environment in which anything that was remotely ethnic, exotic Indian had to be italicized and explained. And so she really felt that her work was being viewed through a lens of ethnography and not really viewed as a story per se. And so I think it sounds to me like this is a similar kind of, you wanted to avoid, kind of.
Exactly the
having
situation.
yeah.
Also, I'm an avid reader, and I'll bring up that exact same time frame, late 70s, for you, when we are in a non-globalized world. I'm a child in Calcutta, and I'm reading Tintin in America. And everywhere there's this character mentioned, Al Capone. And I don't know who he is. I have no clue that he's actually a real person, none whatsoever. And I love it. And I'm just sitting and wondering now that, if every time Al Capone was mentioned, our publishers insisted on putting an asterisk or italicizing his name and putting a little paragraph in the glossary explaining who Al Capone was, whether I would have liked the book that much. I doubt if I would have, because that's what textbooks do, and nobody likes textbooks. Secondly, because I had no idea, when I finally learned that there was actually a character called Al Capone, I read up on Chicago like nobody's business, which is really the best way in which you learn about another culture. When you explain a culture far too much, your reader's curiosity gets killed. And it's one way to actually make your reader more insular. I remember reading Enid Blyton as a child, and this is an India where you've never heard of these things. Spam, ginger beer. I had no idea and they were just these fantastic exotic things that, that could be anything we wanted them to be. And they were often. I mean, my ginger beer is nothing like ginger beer I tasted later.
And you probably
and I
had
probably
no idea what spam was like.
And I had no idea what spam was at all. I just, I don't know what I thought it was. I mean, this mystery is certainly not what spam is. But it was wonderful, and it did not stop me from enjoying that world that she created, because no one walked in and interfered with the story. And somewhere in the course of publishing, saying yes, we want to talk about other ethnicities, all of that, people have started treating it as some sort of an academic course, and it isn't one. It's still just basic storytelling. And its principal job is to ignite the reader's sense of wonder. I don't think it's anybody's business to explain and kill it, really. We should be really very careful of that.